Colonel James Alexander, United States Marine Corps, walked through the double doors of Family Courtroom 4C at the Prince William County Courthouse in Manassas, Virginia, at 10:47 in the morning on a Thursday in June, in full Marine Corps service dress uniform, carrying a leather portfolio under his left arm. The bailiff, who had, per what I would later learn, been expecting him, stepped aside. The court reporter, who had, per what I would later learn, been told by the judge that a Marine Corps JAG officer would be joining the proceedings, adjusted her stenograph machine. My ex-husband Trevor, sitting at the plaintiff's table with his new wife Ashley and his attorney Douglas Blackwell, went pale. The judge, the Honorable Rebecca Chen, presiding, looked up from her bench. She said, "Colonel Alexander, thank you for joining us." Colonel Alexander said, "Your Honor, thank you for accommodating my request to attend. May I approach the bench?" Judge Chen said, "Colonel, please." Colonel Alexander walked to the bench. He opened the leather portfolio. He removed 3 specific documents. He placed them on the judge's bench. He said, in the specific level voice that Marine Corps JAG officers use when they are about to end a case, "Your Honor, I represent Captain Elena Vasquez, United States Marine Corps, in this step-parent adoption proceeding. My client is currently deployed to a location I cannot name. I have been designated her legal representative for the duration of her deployment. I have 3 documents to present. Do you require me to read them into the record?" Judge Chen said, "Colonel, I do. The mother Anta. The mentor. My name is Elena Vasquez. I am 31 years old. I am a captain in the United States Marine Corps, currently assigned to a Marine Corps intelligence detachment operating in the Pacific region. I have served in the Marine Corps for 9 years. I have deployed twice. I have a son. His name is Daniel Vasquez. He is 5 years old. He was born on March 14th, 5 years ago, at Naval Medical Center Portsmouth in Virginia. I want to tell you about my son and my ex-husband before I tell you what happened in Family Courtroom 4C at 10:47 a.m. on Thursday, June 12th. My ex-husband is Trevor Whitmore. He is 34 years old. He is a civilian. He is a mid-level project manager at a defense contractor in Northern Virginia. When I married him in 2018, at a small ceremony at the chapel at Marine Corps Base Quantico, he was 27, employed at his first job out of college, and, per my honest assessment at the time, a decent enough young man. He was polite. He was punctual. He had a college degree from George Mason University. He said, on our 3rd date, that he had always admired women in uniform. I want to be honest about what happened over the next 4 years of our marriage. Trevor did not, as it turned out, actually admire women in uniform. He admired the idea of women in uniform. He admired the specific romantic mythology of dating a Marine Corps officer, and of introducing his wife at his company's Christmas party as Captain Vasquez, my wife who's in the Marines. He did not, once we were married, admire the reality of what my job actually required. By 2020, 2 years into our marriage, and 1 year after Daniel was born, Trevor had begun asking me when I planned to get out of the Marines. He asked it at our anniversary dinner in February. He asked it again at his mother's Easter brunch in April. He asked it again in the specific voice he used when he thought I was not paying attention, at the small kitchen table of our house in Woodbridge, Virginia in October, in front of our 15-month-old son. I told him, each time, that I was not planning to leave the Marine Corps. We divorced in 2023. The divorce was, per the specific description of my divorce attorney at the time, amicable in the way that 90% of civilian military divorces are amicable, meaning that Trevor did not fight for anything he could not get, and I did not ask for anything I did not need. We agreed to joint legal custody of Daniel. Trevor kept our house in Woodbridge, per his specific request, so that Daniel could remain in the same school district. I moved to a small apartment in Manassas, 10 miles away. I want to explain what Trevor did 15 months after our divorce, because it will matter for what happened in June. In January of this year, approximately 8 months before the events I am about to describe, Trevor remarried. His new wife's name was Ashley Blackwell. She was 29 years old. She was a paralegal at the law firm where Trevor's attorney worked, the firm of Blackwell, Sanders, and Associates in Manassas. Ashley Blackwell was, per what my divorce attorney told me over coffee in February, the daughter of the senior partner Douglas Blackwell, who happens to be your ex-husband's attorney. I want to be honest about how I felt when I learned who Ashley was. I did not at that moment feel threatened. I felt curious. I asked my attorney, Margaret Miller, one specific question. Margaret, should I be worried about this? Margaret Miller said, Elena, not yet. But if you get deployment orders in the next 6 months, tell me the day you get them. I received deployment orders in April. The orders directed me to report to a specific Marine Corps deployment cycle beginning May 1st, for a duration of 9 months, at a location classified above unclassified reference. My orders were, per Marine Corps protocol, mandatory. I could not defer them without ending my active career. I called Margaret Miller on the same day I received the orders. Margaret said, Elena, get a family care plan filed, get it signed by Trevor, get it notarized, get it filed with your command. Do it within 7 days, and do not, for any reason, allow Trevor to know that I told you to do it. I did. Trevor signed the family care plan on April 17th, in the presence of Captain Susan Yamashita, Marine Corps JAG, at the legal office at Marine Corps Base Quantico. The family care plan specified that Trevor would be the primary caregiver of Daniel during my 9-month deployment, and that Daniel would continue to reside in Trevor's house in Woodbridge for the duration of that deployment. It also specified, per the specific language Margaret had insisted on, that all major legal, medical, educational, and custodial decisions regarding Daniel during my deployment required my written consent. Trevor signed all 5 pages. He initialed every page. He signed the specific line labeled, I, Trevor James Whitmore, acknowledge that I am the temporary primary caregiver of Daniel Vasquez during Captain Elena Vasquez's deployment, and that my temporary custodial role does not alter the underlying joint legal custody arrangement established in our 2023 divorce decree. I further acknowledge that Captain Vasquez retains full parental rights during her deployment, and that any major legal decisions regarding Daniel require her written consent. I deployed on May 3rd. I want to tell you what happened next. On May 24th, 3 weeks after I deployed, Ashley Whitmore, formerly Ashley Blackwell, filed a petition for step-parent adoption of Daniel Vasquez in Prince William County Family Court. The petition claimed that Daniel's biological mother, me, had, per the petition's exact language, voluntarily abandoned parental responsibility by electing military deployment over primary custody, thereby forfeiting maternal claim under Virginia's step-parent adoption statute. The petition was filed by attorney Douglas Blackwell, Ashley's father. The petition was assigned a hearing date of June 12th. I learned about the petition on May 27th, 3 days after it was filed, when Captain Susan Yamashita received a formal notice at the Marine Corps Base Quantico legal office, per specific federal regulation that required family court proceedings involving deployed service members to be routed through military legal channels. Captain Yamashita called me on the Marine Corps' classified network at 11:14 p.m. local time on May 27th. She said, Captain Vasquez, are you sitting down? I said, Susan, yes. She said, Elena, your ex-husband and his new wife have filed for step-parent adoption of Daniel. The hearing is on June 12th. That's 15 days from now. I did not at that moment speak. Captain Yamashita said, Elena, I have called Colonel Alexander. He is on his way to my office right now. Are you willing to formally designate the Marine Corps JAG office as your legal representative for the duration of your deployment? I said, Susan, yes, immediately. I signed the designation the following morning. Colonel James Alexander became my attorney of record on May 28th. He arrived at Family Courtroom 4C in Manassas, Virginia, 16 days later. The hearing. I want to walk you through the 15 days between the filing of the adoption petition and the hearing on June 12th, because they will explain what Colonel Alexander presented to Judge Chen when he walked through those double doors at 10:47 a.m. Colonel James Alexander is 58 years old. He is a colonel in the United States Marine Corps. He has served in the Marine Corps for 32 years. He is currently the senior legal officer at Marine Corps Base Quantico. He has served, per his own quiet mention during my mentorship under him at Officer Candidate School in 2016, in the Corps' Family Law Division for the last 14 years, specifically handling deployed service member custody cases. He mentored me through Officer Candidate School. He mentored me through the basic school. He mentored me through my first duty assignment at Camp Lejeune. He was, per the specific email he sent me on my Marine Corps commissioning day in 2016, one of the specific officers who identified in you the specific qualities that make Marine officers valuable to this country. He and his wife Margaret had attended my wedding in 2018. He and his wife had, at Daniel's baptism in 2020, been Daniel's godparents. He was, at the time Captain Yamashita called him on the evening of May 27th, the specific person she called first because he was the specific person who had known me and my son for longer than anyone else in the Marine Corps legal community. He arrived at Captain Yamashita's office at Marine Corps Base Quantico at 12:47 a.m. on May 28th. He read the adoption petition. He read the family care plan Trevor had signed 6 weeks earlier. He read the divorce decree from 2023. He was, per what Captain Yamashita would later tell me over a phone call on June 3rd, silent for approximately 11 minutes. Then he said, "Susan, this is not a step-parent adoption petition. This is an attempt to use federal deployment orders as a weapon to terminate maternal custody without the mother's knowledge or consent. This is the specific pattern of case that the Marine Corps has, per the last 8 years of my case docket, been quietly ending in family courts across Virginia." Captain Yamashita said, "Sir, what do you want to do?" Colonel Alexander said, "Susan, I am going to represent Captain Vasquez personally. I am going to attend the hearing personally. I am going to bring 3 specific documents to Judge Chen personally. And I am going to end this petition in Family Courtroom 4C on June 12th. Do you understand what I am asking?" Captain Yamashita said, "Sir, yes." Colonel Alexander said, "Susan, get me Elena on the phone. She is my client. I need her authorization." Captain Yamashita called me at 11:22 p.m. local time on May 27th, actually the second call of the night, the first having ended 8 minutes earlier. She said, "Elena, Colonel Alexander wants to represent you personally at the hearing. He wants your verbal authorization tonight." I said, "Susan, put him on the phone." Colonel Alexander said, "Captain Vasquez, this is Colonel Alexander." I said, "Sir, please represent me, and please protect Daniel." Colonel Alexander said, "Captain, I will do both, on my Marine Corps oath." I said, "Sir, thank you." Colonel Alexander said, "Captain, go back to your duties. Focus on the mission. Do not, for any reason, contact your ex-husband directly during the next 15 days. I will handle him. You will focus on protecting the service members in your operational area. I will focus on protecting the person you love most in the world. Do you understand?" I said, "Sir, yes, sir." I went back to my duties. I did not over the next 15 days contact Trevor. I did not over the next 15 days contact Ashley. I did not, over the next 15 days, know what Colonel Alexander was doing. I want to tell you what he was doing. Colonel Alexander spent the first 3 days after our call reviewing every relevant federal statute governing deployed service member custody. He then, per what Captain Yamashita would later tell me over coffee at Quantico in September, reviewed every relevant Virginia statute governing step-parent adoption and identified the specific procedural violations in the Blackwell petition. He then, on day 4, contacted Judge Rebecca Chen's chambers directly. He identified himself as Marine Corps JAG counsel for the deployed biological mother. He requested that he be permitted to attend the hearing in person as her legal representative. Judge Chen, per what I would later learn, herself the wife of a retired Navy chief, granted the request within 11 minutes of receiving it. He then, on day 5, contacted Trevor's mother. Trevor's mother is a woman named Diane Whitmore. She is 66 years old. She lives in Charlottesville, Virginia. She has been, per the specific arrangement of our divorce, a warm and consistent grandmother to Daniel since he was born. She is not, per what Colonel Alexander would later learn from her directly, aware of what Trevor and Ashley had filed. Colonel Alexander called her on May 31st. He asked her 3 questions. Question 1. Mrs. Whitmore, are you aware that your son and his new wife have filed for step-parent adoption of your grandson Daniel? Diane Whitmore said, Colonel, no, I am not aware. Question 2. Mrs. Whitmore, when was the last time you spoke with your son regarding Daniel? Diane Whitmore said, Colonel, I spoke with Trevor on Saturday. He said Daniel was fine. He did not mention any court proceeding. Question 3. Mrs. Whitmore, would you be willing to speak to Judge Chen about this proceeding, in a written statement, providing your assessment of Elena's role as Daniel's mother? Diane Whitmore said, Colonel, yes, I will drive to Manassas today. She drove to Manassas that afternoon. She provided a written statement to Colonel Alexander at his office, at Marine Corps Base Quantico, at 4:47 p.m. on May 31st. Her statement was 3 pages long. It described, in specific detail, the 11 times she had witnessed Elena Vasquez as an exceptional mother over 5 years, and the 2 specific times she had witnessed her son Trevor treat Elena's Marine Corps service as an inconvenience. The statement concluded with the specific sentence, I love my son, but my son is wrong. Elena Vasquez is Daniel's mother. That is not going to change, because my son married a woman who wants to erase her. Diane Whitmore signed the statement. Colonel Alexander notarized it. The statement became the 3rd document in the leather portfolio that Colonel Alexander walked into Family Courtroom 4C carrying at 10:47 a.m. on June 12th. The courtroom. I want to walk you through what happened in Family Courtroom 4C between 10:47 a.m. and 11:38 a.m. on Thursday, June 12th, because it is the reason my son is currently sleeping in my mother's guest bedroom in Woodbridge, Virginia, and not in the specific new home Ashley Whitmore had prepared for him. Colonel James Alexander walked through the double doors of Family Courtroom 4C at 10:47 a.m. in Marine Corps service dress uniform, carrying his leather portfolio. Trevor Whitmore, sitting at the plaintiff's table between his new wife Ashley and his attorney Douglas Blackwell, went pale. Douglas Blackwell, Ashley's father, said, per what the court reporter would later transcribe, Your Honor, may I ask who this officer is and why he is here? Judge Rebecca Chen said, Mr. Blackwell, this is Colonel James Alexander, United States Marine Corps. He is the designated legal representative for Captain Elena Vasquez, who is deployed. His attendance was requested by his office on May 31st. It was approved by this court on the same day. He was scheduled to appear as counsel. I assumed your client had informed you. Douglas Blackwell looked at Trevor. Trevor did not, per what I would later see in the video recording of the hearing, look back at his father-in-law. Colonel Alexander approached the bench. He said, Your Honor, thank you for accommodating my presence. I have 3 documents to present. Do you require me to read them into the record? Judge Chen said, Colonel, I do. Please proceed. Colonel Alexander opened the leather portfolio. He removed the first document. He said, Your Honor, Document 1 is the Family Care Plan, signed by Trevor Whitmore on April 17th of this year, in the presence of Marine Corps JAG Council, notarized by Marine Corps JAG Council, and filed with Captain Vasquez's Marine Corps Command. This document, at page 4, contains the following signed statement by Mr. Whitmore. I, Trevor James Whitmore, acknowledge that my temporary custodial role does not alter the underlying joint legal custody arrangement established in our 2023 divorce decree. I further acknowledge that Captain Vasquez retains full parental rights during her deployment, and that any major legal decisions regarding Daniel require her written consent. He paused. He said, Your Honor, I would like the court to note that Mr. Whitmore signed this document on April 17th of this year. That is 37 days before Mrs. Whitmore filed the adoption petition. Mr. Whitmore knew, when he signed this document, that a step-parent adoption proceeding could not be initiated during Captain Vasquez's deployment without her written consent. He signed the document anyway. His signature is on the Family Care Plan. His initials are on every page. The document is notarized. Would Your Honor care to review it? Judge Chen took the document. She read it for approximately 14 seconds. She said, Colonel, the signature is Mr. Whitmore's. The notarization is valid. The Family Care Plan is on file with Captain Vasquez's Marine Corps Command. Please continue with Document 2. Colonel Alexander said, Your Honor, Document 2 is a certified copy of Captain Vasquez's deployment orders, signed by the Commandant of the Marine Corps on April 3rd of this year. The orders specify a 9-month operational deployment beginning May 1st. The orders are, per federal law and per Marine Corps regulation, not optional. Refusal of the orders by Captain Vasquez would have constituted a violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Deployment did not, in any legal or factual sense, constitute Captain Vasquez's election of military service over primary custody, as claimed in the adoption petition. Deployment constituted federally mandated compliance with lawful military orders. Captain Vasquez could not have refused deployment without ending her career. Would Your Honor care to review it? Judge Chen took the deployment orders. She read them. She said, "Colonel, the orders are valid. Please continue with Document 3. Colonel Alexander said, "Your Honor, Document 3 is a sworn written statement by Mrs. Diane Whitmore, the paternal grandmother of Daniel Vasquez and the mother of Mr. Trevor Whitmore. Mrs. Whitmore was, per her own statement, not informed by Mr. Whitmore that he and Mrs. Whitmore had filed this adoption petition. She learned of the petition on May 31st, when I contacted her directly to request her assessment of Captain Vasquez's role as Daniel's mother. Mrs. Whitmore drove from Charlottesville to Manassas the same day. She provided this written statement in my office at Marine Corps Base Quantico. The statement is notarized. Would Your Honor care to review it?" Judge Chen took the statement. She read it. Her reading, per the court recording, took approximately 47 seconds. She looked up. She looked at Trevor. She looked at Ashley. She looked at Douglas Blackwell, she said, in the specific level voice that Virginia family court judges use when they are about to end a hearing before it has really begun. "Mr. Blackwell, I have questions. Would you like me to ask them of you, or of your client, or of your client's wife?" Douglas Blackwell said, "Your Honor, Judge Chen said, "Mr. Blackwell, yes or no? Did you, prior to filing this petition, review the family care plan signed by your client on April 17th? Douglas Blackwell said, "Your Honor, I was not aware." Judge Chen said, "Mr. Blackwell, yes or no?" Douglas Blackwell said, "No, Your Honor." Judge Chen said, "Mr. Blackwell, did you, prior to filing this petition, review Captain Vasquez's federal deployment orders?" Douglas Blackwell said, "No, Your Honor." Judge Chen said, "Mr. Blackwell, did you, prior to filing this petition, contact Mr. Whitmore's mother, Daniel's grandmother, to ascertain the family circumstances surrounding this adoption petition?" Douglas Blackwell said, "No, Your Honor." Judge Chen said, "Mr. Blackwell, did you, at any point during the preparation of this petition, obtain any evidence supporting your petition's central claim that Captain Vasquez had voluntarily abandoned parental responsibility, a claim that appears in bold text on page 1 of your filing?" Douglas Blackwell said, per the court recording, "Your Honor, my client informed me that..." Judge Chen said, "Mr. Blackwell, did you obtain independent evidence?" Douglas Blackwell said, "No, Your Honor." Judge Chen said, "Mr. Blackwell, please sit down." Douglas Blackwell sat down. Judge Chen looked at Trevor. She said, "Mr. Whitmore, please stand." Trevor stood. Judge Chen said, "Mr. Whitmore, I want to say 2 things. First, this court will not be granting this petition. The petition is denied on the grounds that it is legally void, procedurally deficient, and substantively fraudulent. Second, I am, at the conclusion of this hearing, going to be filing a formal referral to the Virginia State Bar for potential disciplinary action against your attorney for failure to exercise reasonable due diligence. I am also going to be referring this petition to the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia for review under 18 U.S.C. Section 1001, the federal statute governing false statements in matters affecting a federal agency, specifically the United States Marine Corps. Do you understand what I am telling you?" Trevor said, "Your Honor, yes." Judge Chen said, "Mr. Whitmore, Colonel Alexander has requested, on behalf of his client, that this court also transfer Daniel's primary physical custody to Captain Vasquez's designated care arrangement for the remainder of her deployment. That designated care arrangement is Daniel's paternal grandmother, Mrs. Diane Whitmore, per Mrs. Whitmore's own signed statement submitted to this court. I am granting that transfer. Daniel will reside with Mrs. Diane Whitmore in Woodbridge for the remainder of Captain Vasquez's deployment. You will not, per emergency order of this court, have unsupervised contact with Daniel until this matter has been fully adjudicated. Do you understand?" Trevor said, "Your Honor, yes." Judge Chen said, "Mr. Whitmore, please sit down." Trevor sat down. Judge Chen looked at Colonel Alexander. She said, "Colonel, please convey to Captain Vasquez that this court found her legal representation this morning to be per my honest assessment, the specific example of Marine Corps JAG excellence I hope to encounter more often in this courtroom. Colonel Alexander said, "Your Honor, I will convey your assessment." "Thank you, Your Honor." Colonel Alexander closed the leather portfolio. He walked out of Family Courtroom 4C at 11:38 a.m. He called me on the Marine Corps' classified network at 11:47 p.m. local time. He said, "Captain Vasquez, your son is safe. Your ex-husband is going to be under federal investigation by the end of the month, and your mother-in-law wants to talk to you when you have time." I did not, at that moment, cry. I did, at that moment, thank him. I want to tell you what happened over the next 7 months, because it matters. Trevor was informed on July 8th by the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia that he was under federal investigation for potential violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 10001. False statements affecting a federal agency, specifically the United States Marine Corps' Family Care Plan and Deployment Support Systems. The investigation, per Colonel Alexander's specific update to me in September, resulted in a plea agreement in October. Trevor pled guilty to one federal misdemeanor count of false statement. He was sentenced to 12 months of federal supervised probation and ordered to complete 40 hours of community service at a Marine Corps family support organization in Northern Virginia. He was not incarcerated. He was, per the specific consequence he did not anticipate, permanently disqualified from any future federal contracting work. His employer, the defense contractor in Northern Virginia, terminated him in November. Ashley Whitmore filed for divorce from Trevor in December, 9 months after their marriage. She was, per her father's specific settlement position, seeking dissolution based on materially false representations by Mr. Whitmore during the course of the marriage. The divorce was finalized in February of this year. Douglas Blackwell, Ashley's father and Trevor's attorney, was formally reprimanded by the Virginia State Bar in November. He was required to complete 40 hours of continuing legal education, specifically related to federal military law. He remains in practice. His firm, per what my attorney Margaret Miller told me over coffee in December, has lost approximately 30% of its family law clientele since the reprimand. Diane Whitmore, Trevor's mother, became Daniel's primary caregiver for the remainder of my deployment. She moved into the house in Woodbridge in June. She stayed until my return in February. She and I have, in the 11 months since I returned, become closer than either of us imagined possible in the years of my marriage to her son. She has, per her own specific request in July of last year, been granted formal grandparent visitation rights under Virginia Family Court order. She sees Daniel every Sunday. She joins us for dinner every Wednesday. She has not, per what she has told me directly, spoken to Trevor in 9 months. I returned from deployment on February 2nd. My homecoming ceremony was held at Marine Corps Base Quantico. Daniel, now 6 years old, attended the ceremony with Diane. He was wearing a small Marine Corps t-shirt that Colonel Alexander had, per his own quiet purchase in January, sent to Diane's house for the specific purpose of the homecoming. Colonel Alexander was present at the ceremony. He did not, per Marine Corps custom, salute me. I was a captain returning to my command. I did not, per Marine Corps custom, salute him first. Daniel, at 6 years old, saluted him. Colonel Alexander returned Daniel's salute. Daniel said, "Colonel Alexander, thank you for saving Mommy." Colonel Alexander said, "Daniel, I did not save Mommy. Mommy was serving. I made sure the country you both love kept the specific promise. It made her the day she raised her hand and swore to defend it. Do you understand the difference?" Daniel said, "Sir, I think so." Colonel Alexander said, "Good. When you're older, you'll understand it better." I have, in the 7 months since my return, been assigned to a shore-duty billet at Marine Corps Base Quantico as a senior analyst on the base's intelligence support staff. I will not deploy again for a minimum of 3 years. Daniel, now in 1st grade, attends the elementary school 4 minutes from our new house in Stafford, Virginia. Diane Whitmore lives 11 miles away. My mother, who moved from Miami to Northern Virginia in April, lives 14 miles away. I have not spoken to Trevor Whitmore in 11 months. I have no plans to speak with him. If Daniel wants to speak to his father when he is older, I will support that decision. Daniel has not, in 7 months, asked about his father. Colonel James Alexander retired from the Marine Corps in August. His retirement ceremony was held at Marine Corps Base Quantico. Daniel and I attended. Colonel Alexander was, per his retirement announcement, planning to teach military family law as an adjunct professor at George Mason University's law school. He accepted the position in September. He and his wife Margaret, who remain Daniel's godparents, have Sunday dinner at our house in Stafford every 3 weeks. At each of those dinners, per what has become the specific ritual of our new family arrangement, Daniel asks Colonel Alexander to tell him one story about when Mommy was a young Marine. Colonel Alexander tells one story each time. He has, in 7 months, told 21 stories. He has told me privately, per what he mentioned at Sunday dinner in October, that he has approximately 300 more. He said, "Elena, I plan to keep telling them for as long as Daniel wants to hear them, which, per my honest assessment, will be until he is old enough to earn his own." I did not, at that dinner, cry. I did, at that dinner, thank him. If you have ever been the mother, or the father, who deployed for your country and came home to a legal proceeding that had been filed while you were doing your job, I want you to leave one word in the comments below. Just one word. The name of the person who tried to take your child, or the name of the officer who came to court, or the name of the child who ran to you when the hearing ended. Say the word. Because someone in this comment section is going to see your word, and they are going to remember that the officers who trained you in the specific values of the Corps are, sometimes, the specific officers who come back for you when the country tests those values in a family courtroom. And if this story reminded you that the Marine Corps takes care of its own, subscribe. Because next video, I am telling you about a maid of honor at my sister's wedding who told the entire reception I was faking my Purple Heart. The Marine Corps Commandant was on my sister's guest list. I'll see you there.